Hello everyone, Pierce Nation here. Welcome back to a new deck profile today. Today we are going over my 31 and 1 branded Despia deck profile. Now from the normal list, there's not a lot different than what you see in tournament play right now, but I have not really lost a whole lot of battles with branded Despia thus far, so it makes all the difference with this deck. So I'll go ahead and get into it. The side deck's a little jank, but the main two are basically what you would see if you went YCS right now. So let's go ahead and dive into it, and I'll show you everything that we are playing in this deck. Because this deck is just unbelievable compared to Castira. We'll start off with 3 Aliber, Gesture of Despia. Of course, it's the #1 starter, so always play 3. Play 1 Despian Tragedy. Don't really need to see it any more than that. And 1 Ad Libitum. This comes up late game, so if you can get this in hand off of like Tragedy, off of like a Bestial, then you can extend your plays further with this, and you can bring back one of your fusion monsters that are banished or in graveyard. So yeah, that's the main reason we play that card. Then leading those off, we run 2 Fallen Albaz. Some people are playing 3. I find this better at 2 because I really don't care if one gets banished just down anyway. As long as I still have the 1 to play with, I'm fine. And we also have other plays that don't rely on Albaz, so 2 Albaz is fine. You can run 3 if you want. It's all up to you. And then we got a bunch of ones. So we play 1 Blazing Cortesia. It's the best card in the deck, obviously. Does so much. And anytime you have Albaz in graveyard or like Albion, any card that says while it's in graveyard it becomes Fallen Albaz, you can special summon this card. And then this card can fusion summon from hand or field while quick effect, which makes this card broken. Plus, if you send a fusion monster to the graveyard, you can add this back to hand. So, Blazing Cartesia is definitely worth running. Play 1 Spriggan's Kit. This is essentially Aliber, except, you know, can't really kind of lose a card off of this, but this is still a good extender if you draw it. And also, you can use it for like Runebone. Also, you can use for Runebone is Tri Brigade Mercurier, which is your #1 negate. You can get any of these cards all branded lost. They all mention Fallen Albaz. So Tri Brigade Mercurier is the negate that you want to try to search if you get like Mirror Jade or something on. Lead none off. We got Albion the Shrouded Dragon. Obviously, everybody plays this card in Branded. It is the #1 card starter for Branded. So, also, it's draw fodder. So, helps you thin it out. And then we'll get to the Bestials. I'll just do them all at once here. So I run Magnum Hut. My first choice. My second choice is Druid Swarm, and my third choice is obviously Serenum. Now we do play all 3 of these. We only play 1 copy of each of them because anytime you pull this, you get this or this. Most of the time when I do Magnum Hut, I grab Druid Swarm because I can Foolish Burial this anyway, or if I draw it, I can just special it out with its own effect, banish like Tragedy, get the search, and then like use Cartesia to go off of this, make Grand Granol, and then this sends a card from deck to grave, which is nice. So you're going to run those 3 if you choose to do it this way. I'm not playing Lubellion, that's why I'm doing this. If I had Lubellion, it would probably just be Lubellion and Serenum. And then for our hand traps, that's what we are playing. We'll go 3 Ash Blossom. Like that's pretty standard for any deck today, especially with Book of Eclipse running around. And then 3 Nibiru. Like this card, auto wins. Especially if you get it off, so you nib. Doesn't really matter what you have on board, as long as you don't have too much. I would always like nib at like their end of main, which is when they would like be like, oh, battle phase. Yeah, just be like into main. I want to nib. Activate nib. You can really stop them in their tracks. Plus, turn 2, because you probably expulsion. And when I expulsion, I use Aliber. I don't use Fallen Albaz because Aliber's got so much versatility. With Nibiru, the token that it does make, you can use Aliber to grab Branded in red, use like Despian Tragedy, Engrave, or literally any Despian monster or Fallen Albaz. Branded in red, make Guardian Chimera, and basically pop the token for game. Yeah, Nib is super good in the format. And then our last two one-offs is Dark Magician and Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. Now these cards are very controversial in this deck, and this one definitely is one of the better ones. But Gimmick Puppet is the main play to where we lock our opponents down. Some people side this. I main it because I literally can get this off like 90% of the time. So, I mean, if you can do this, special it to your opponent's field off of Expulsion, they lock themselves into Gimmick Puppets, and they literally cannot play. They can normal something, but it'll be for naught because we can make Mirror Jade the following turn or Guardian Chimera and pop this card or their monster. It doesn't really matter. Typically, I'll pop their monster because I can beat over this if they put it in attack mode. Plus, I do have ways to out this, so not that hard to out these two cards. Then we're going to get into some spells. I'll speed this up a little bit. So, Branded Opening, pretty self-explanatory. Take the SP monster or special one by discarding a card, and then it's got protection built in for fusion monsters that are popped by card effects. Pretty obviously, you're playing Branded, so you're going to tap Branded Fusion. Really don't care how you do it, but you have to have Branded Fusion in the deck. Like, it's automatic. Like, if they're gonna allow it at 3, you're gonna run it at 3. I'm sorry. Like, that's not non-negotiable. Like, if you can run Branded Fusion, you're running 3 Branded Fusion. Sorry. I won't even negotiate about that one. Next of all, we got Branded in red. Branded in red is the one of you play, and the other one of is Branded Lost. So these two cards paired together will get you probably Guardian Chimera or whatever you're wanting, and this will get you any of those monsters that mentioned Fallen Albaz once you fusion summon. So really broken. Plus, we do have more ways to fusion summon, and I'll show you. Like, if we don't already have enough ways to fusion summon, we got more. So one of the biggest ones we have is Super Poly. So I main 3 Super Poly. I do not main Book of Eclipse. So I find Super Poly to be a lot better because I can use it on like Albaz and opponent's monster. Doesn't really matter if they stop me in my tracks with an Albaz effect, because I'm more than likely can just Super Poly him away and make like Brigade or like a lot of stuff I have in my my extra deck. So like Super Poly is busted as it is. That's another way to fusion summon. Well, how do we get these cards out if they're in the deck? That's fine. We just run Fusion Deployment. Fusion Deployment's pretty self-explanatory. Not a lot you need to know about it. You just reveal a monster that specifically lists one of the monsters in your deck as fusion material, and you special summon it. Locked in fusion monsters, but who cares? We only play fusions. Then our one of spells is Called by the Grave, Golden Sarcophagus, and Foolish Burial. Now, why are these cards so good? Called by the Grave is good because you can dodge the Ash, or literally anything else your opponent would do. Golden Sark and Foolish are for either Tragedy. This one is definitely for Tragedy and literally nothing else. And this one right here can be used for Serenir or literally any graveyard reliant cards. So like this, just you open this and like you just win. Like it's that simple. Golden Sark, you open this, you win. That's simple. This will not get you a win, but will help you get there. If that makes any sense. So we do run 2 traps. They're pretty self-explanatory and easy. That is Branded Expulsion and Branded Retribution. So both of these cards are super good. Branded Expulsion is what you tribute a fusion monster and you special summon one monster your field, one monster your opponent's field. The other part of this effect is not important. Just as long as you use a fusion monster, you can special one to your field, one to your opponents. That's why we use Gimmick Puppet. This is the card that you can do it with. You can give them your Gimmick Puppet, and you can get Aliber. Then Aliber effect, you can go and get Branded in Red. Pretty simple. I didn't explain Retribution. So Retribution, you actually do not use its negate effect at all, because you have to tribute a fusion monster in order to do this, or shuffle them back. Now, if I have to shuffle them back to negate something, and I have this, I will definitely do that. 10 out of 10 times. But if I send this to, like, say, like Retrieve Branded Expulsion, Branded Fusion, Branded in Red, it makes the play a whole lot easier, because you just banish this from your graveyard. You can't activate both effects in the same turn. You can only activate one effect per turn. But if you banish this from your graveyard, you can add back the expulsion that's engraved, or any branded spell or trap. So, with that, that is the main. We will get into the extra, then to the side. I will do this fairly quickly, because my camera started drifting away there. Yeah, that's actually a better view on it right there. Alright, so we will start with the back three. So the back three is Despian Quiritus. I like this better than Proskinian, because Proskinian's only good if your opponent has a monster engrave. Where Quiritus here, he really doesn't care. Against Sword Soul, you just auto win, because they have to try to negate this, and by that time you should have Dragoon, Draxtapelia, or even Renbrum, so they would be forced to try to stop it. So Quiritus is super good for dropping everything to 0, and then if this card is popped by a card effect, which more than likely it has to be, unless you're facing a Branded Mirror match, it special summons I believe it's Fallen Albaz or Despia monster, right? Yeah, it's Fallen Albaz or a Despia monster, which most of the time I just go for Aliber, because that's the smarter choice. Draxtapelia, obviously, Draxtapelia negate, and then Garua, which is the main card you should be playing anyway, because if you're going to run Super Pelling, you're going to want Garua, so you can stop cards like, you can stop the Flu strategy and its tracks once they go Robina to Eaglin. You just Super Poly them and make Garua. Or you can let them extend and get so far. Doesn't matter, because they're all wind and wing beasts, so you just Super Poly the board. Doesn't really matter at that point. And plus, if it goes to grave, you draw a card. Sometimes I expulsion this just so I can get the draw. Maybe pull like a hand trap, so if my opponent tries to extend, can't really do a whole lot. So that's a play you can do as well. Again, it's all just depending on like how you want to try and do it. So for the rest of these, it's pretty self-explanatory. And we'll start with our fusioners. So we got back a bit. You got Lubellion and you got Albion. You play 2 copies of both. Like, it's pretty standard to play 2 copies of both. One banishes the materials from graveyard, hand, or field. The other shuffles them back in from graveyard, hand, field, or banished. I don't know if it does from hand. Does it do it from hand? Shuffle materials into the deck. Monsters on your field, graveyard, and... Okay, so it doesn't do it from hand. This one does it for hand. This one does it from literally everywhere else. So that's all you need to know, really. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's not that hard to figure it out. And then we got the rest of these Fallen Albaz ones besides Mirror Jade. I play Sprind, Brygran, Grangranol, and I play Renbrum. So these are pretty standard. The only not standard ones are these two. I'm thinking about cutting Sprind to go and make a second Dragoon. Kind of deciding. I haven't decided yet. But this one, I could cut this at any point in time. I just like it to where my opponent can't target other cards besides this one. So, now with that, Granganol and Rinbrum, like these are two, like I play one of each of them, and they're just so good. Like you literally don't play anything else because Granganol's effect when it goes to graveyard to banish itself when your opponent's supposed to summon a monster off a monster effect. It's pretty broken. Because, I mean, it could be its own monster effect, special summoning it, and just Granganol, special summon Despia, and then you got Rinbrum here, which is super good. You bring this card out against Castira when they have a Rise Heart or Ira, and they just lose. There's no win situation there. Like, literally, you bring this out, if they go Rise Heart pass, you make Rinbrum. Attempt to banish Rinbrum effect to negate and return it back to extra deck. Kind of broken. But literally, like, this is your out to literally any extra deck monster. Literally. The only thing this thing doesn't hit is like Underworld Goddess. And this actually, I believe, it doesn't. Nope, doesn't target. So it can out Evermax too. So anytime Evermax attacks and activate the effect, you can negate and just return it. It's a quick effect. It does not target. I thought it targeted. It does not. Now I like Rainbow maybe more for that reason. I was trying to remember off the top of my head. I was like, I don't know if this thing targets or not. It does not. This makes Rinbrum a lot harder to deal with. So the last four are pretty self-explanatory. But never seen the deck before, you would know. So we're going to start off with Guardian Chimera. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon and 2 copies of Mirror Jade. So, like I said, I do want to play a second Dragoon in here because Dragoon is just so damn good. Like, literally, I make this. Cash cannot out this. There's no card they have that can out this. Because if I have a card and they book up Eclipse, I can stop the Eclipse. They can't book a Moon this because they can't target this. Can't Fenrir Banish because you can't target this. You can't Impermanent because, again, you cannot target this. You can't really do anything to this. In the Castira strategy, I play Castira long enough. I know every time I bring this card out against Castira, they go game 2. If I bring this out in game 2, they concede. Every time. Because this card, as soon as it negates, becomes 4K, and they can now not beat over. Doesn't matter if they have the field spell, doesn't matter how many times it's special summon, they cannot beat this card. They have to literally side Lava Golem and hoping that I don't just go Dragoon pass. I normally try to make Dragoon first turn, tribute my Mirror Jade so there's no Lava Golem in sight, and then like turn 2, after I use the negate, I'll load up my board and we just swing for game because Dragoon is just so stupid that you can't really do anything against it. Guardian Chimera is another really great card that basically you pop a card, draw 2 cards. That's basically what you're trying to accomplish with this. Or if they have, you know, some problematic cards on board, you pop 2, draw 1. It doesn't really matter as long as you can pop the cards. So with that, Mirror Jade's pretty self-explanatory. I do not have to explain that. That being said, that is the entire extra deck of this branded Despia. So, again, I did say that the side deck is jank, and we will get over it as fast as we can. I'll go over the strategies. So, first of all, we're going to cover the Despia Theater of the Branded. Probably seen this in there, and you're like, I don't understand why you play this. The reason that we play this is you can make Albion if you have the light. If you have the dark, you can make Lubellion. Or, like, literally any fusion monster that you can. So, if you have Dark Magician and any dragon with this card, you can literally make Dragoon. And your opponent has to somehow get past Dragoon with their Cashier board. That's what this is for. This is for the 10 zone lock. 10 zone lock, you can get to this in some way, shape, or form, or you draw it. Doesn't matter how you do it. If you can do so, this card right here will win you the game. That's all you have to do. All you have to do is pull Dark Magician, or literally like Albaz, anything like that, and this card will win you the game. All you have to do. Like, this card is just automatic, and it's ridiculous. So basically with this card, if a face-up fusion monster, or face-up non-fairy monster leaves the field of a battle or card effect, you can target, I believe, it's a level 8 or higher fusion monster in your graveyard and special summon it, which is absolutely nuts. I love this card. I'm kind of sad I don't main it anymore, but the main reason that I do cite it is for the Cashier lock. And there were a lot of Despia players playing the latest YCS did not come prepared for that 9-zone lock. You have to be able to do this. If you have at least, you're going to have at least one zone. If you have one zone and you have one good spell, you're going to win. There is no reason playing branded Despia against Cash that you should lose any game. I'm telling you right now, I have not lost a single game. I've faced some good Cashier players. The Cashier just doesn't have the gas to keep up with branded Despia. So we do play the theater. Next of all, if you face Cashier and you're not maining this, I don't know what you're doing. Lightning Storm, like, you have to play this card. This card is not like optional. This is mandatory. You go up against Trap Tricks. You go up against Labyrinth. Dude, this card kills them. You can special summon yourself a castle all you want, but I'm gonna blow up that board. Sorry, just the way it works. When you face these decks, I never go first with them. I always go second because I'm just gonna break it. We run 3 cross out. Obviously, you run 3 cross out. It's pretty self-explanatory. It basically just outs the Ash, or if you're, I'm not really afraid of Nib because we got all these negates in this deck, so this does not really matter. And then next of all, we do run 3 Book of Eclipse. Again, I told you we were citing these, not maining, and they're pretty damn good. They're not bad. I just, some matchups I use them, some I don't, because it's not always important. The biggest card in my side deck is definitely D-Barrier, because play D-Barrier. Oh, whatever. I mean, facing a Link deck, of course, you're not going to play D-Barrier. That's why I don't main this, because sometimes I face some Link decks, and this really does not come up at all, so run D-Barrier in the side, and then the last 2 cards I'm using, these are going to be draw, but I'm running 2 Ghost Spell. So, with that, that is the entire deck. Now, what I can explain before I end the video, which will be in about 3 minutes, is explain to you a bunch of 1-card combos. So, it all can start with Alibur. And then your other main starters. Like these are literally like your 1-card starters. So if you pull any of these cards, you can just go nuts. So again, see these are your 1-card starters. So anytime you open up a game and you have these cards in front of you, you're going to win. I'm just going to tell you that right now. These cards are your win con. There are so many ways to get to them. Because if you activate either of these, you can send Despia Tragedy and you can get this guy. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. You can brand Diffusion, also send the Tragedy, get this guy. You can do it all. Fusion Deployment can get you Albaz, it can get you Cortesia, it can get you Dark Magician, it can get you just about anything you're looking for. Alibur can get you literally any spell, so if you already draw the branded fusion, you can add any spell you want. And if you add Lost, you're definitely going to add Cortesia, which means fusion deployment becomes least important out of all of these. But fusion deployment is very important to win you games. So you'll say, well, what is the best cards to grab with Alibur, the Jester of Despia? Well, one of them is right in front of you, and that is the branded fusion. That is probably the best one to grab. I've baited some ashes off of that too. So it's not very often, but most optimally you add branded fusion, branded red. Branded lost is one we grab a lot. And you could also grab branded opening, but I don't know really why you would do that unless if you're trying to get a fusion monster back, then you would go and get ad libitum, which is smart. So with that, those are your 1-card starters. Now, what is another 1-card starter? And it just so happens to be a bestial monster. So pair that up with Mercurier or Tragedy, right? Turn it on for you. They'll say, no, why are these 1-card starters? So basically, any dark monster, you can banish it, special summon this card, and then, it in turn will add you Druid Swarm or Serenair. Either one. Like, I'd go Druid Swarm because Druid Swarm has more viability built into it rather than the Serenair here. So, Serenair is least important in my book. The Druid Swarm is really good because it's 2500 body, and if you out this card and send it to grave, the effect will go off, and I can send one of your monsters to the graveyard. So, with these cards, like, well, how do they really pair up? So, you pull any of these three, doesn't matter how you get them. You can banish Tragedy or Mercurier, and you can get both of their effects when they're banished. As long as you didn't send this turn, and this one's whenever it's banished. They are once per turn effects, so you can't do any fuckery there. But these two really do a lot for you. Again, Magnum Hunt on end phase grabs you Druid Swarm. Pretty simple. Most of the time, I send this to grave. If not, I do put this on board, wait for Cartesia, and make Grand Granole. I mean, it's not that hard to get this deck to pop off. Once it pops off, like you're going, you're in for a ride. So these are more 1-card combos. Well, there has to be more. Well, there is more. They don't stop there. In the case you face a mirror match, this card comes up. More times often than not, you can just use your opponent's monsters. Like, that's simple. So if you normal Albaz and they try to like negate and destroy, just change Super Poly. Because they can't respond at all with no card effects. So anytime you can just normal summon Albaz, don't try to attempt to use the effect because you're going to use another card in your hand, discard another card, so you got to use 3 cards in order to get this to work, but you can take your opponent's best monster and make Mirror Gem. That's basically how you have to play it, because they're going to have a lot of disruptions, more than likely, and if you can get Super Poly to go off, you just win. Like, this card is so hard to out. So hard. Trying to see if there's any more 1-card starters. At times, Albion can be a 1-card starter. All just depends. Kit's definitely a 1-card starter. And Cartesia is a 1-card starter. Cartesia is literally the best one in this deck. It's just so much for you. Like, you can literally fusion summon using cards on hand and field. So if, let's say you send a Branded Spell Trap and you get this out, it becomes Fallen Albaz while it's on the field. So when you fusion summon, you can literally go into your Albaz plays, or you can again make Grand Granole, because that's how that card works. And then Kit's pretty self-explanatory. I explained it earlier. It's basically Oliver on 3.0 on crack. And then, like, your literally best card in this deck, like if you've ever played Branded, is Fallen Albaz. So again, these cards are very important, and they do a lot for you. So you don't really have to worry too much about them. Albaz is so freaking broken, it's not funny. So, you know, with this being said, that is all the time I have. I've explained this deck inside and out. I've given you all of the reasons why I play this deck. If you all would like the combo guide to this deck and to see what kind of boards this thing would make, you let me know in the comments down below. I'm Pierce Nation, and I will see you all in the next video. Pierce Nation out.